This is a story about a man called Declan O'Connor, who lived in a little Irish village ages ago. Now, Declan was a generous man. He loved his village and its people. He'd give anyone who passed by his house a big smile and a warm welcome. But Declan had a bad habit of buying rounds of drinks at the pub. And he wasn't just generous with his money, he was generous with his time and energy. He'd talk to anyone who'd listen, often staying up late telling stories that were sometimes tall tales. But this story isn't about Declan's big heart. It's about what happens when we get drunk and don't think things through. See, Declan liked to go to this one pub in his village called the Rusty Anchor. It was a cozy place with dim oil, lamp lighting, the walls filled with creaky wooden tables and mismatched chairs. Some evenings, the pub would get so loud with music and dancing, it'd feel like the whole village was in there having fun. Declan especially liked to go here because everyone knew him, and he always had a ready smile for everyone. He was the kind of guy who'd buy you a pint of beer if he thought you needed it. And after a few pints himself, he'd tell you stories about his adventures at sea or his dreams for the future. And these stories weren't just any stories. They were stories of bravery, of hard work, of love and loss. Every story had a bit of magic in it. One night, Declan was in his usual corner table with his faithful dog, a scruffy terrier mix named Finn, sitting at his feet. He was midway through a story about a mermaid he'd seen when a new customer entered the tavern. The man was tall and thin, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through you. His name was Cormac, and he quickly made his way to Declan's table. "I've heard so much about you, Declan O'Connor," he said with a broad smile. "They say you got stories that could make an old man young again." "Well, now, you're too kind," Declan replied with a wink. "But it takes more than words to do that. You'll have to buy me a pint first." And with that, they clinked glasses and Declan continued his tale. Over the next few weeks, this new friend kept showing up. He'd listen intently to Declan's stories and then add his own. Together, they'd raise their glasses to the old tales and dreams for the future. The other villagers started calling them the odd couple, laughing as they watched them swap stories at the bar. But no one understood their friendship better than Finn. He'd sit patiently at his post, ears perked, listening to the stories as he waited for scraps of food to fall from his human's plate. But this friendship wasn't all fun and games. You see, Cormac was a storyteller like Declan, and he was looking for material. He wanted to hear all of Declan's stories, not just for entertainment, but to use them in his own stories. And while Declan loved to share his tales, he didn't like the idea of someone else profiting from him. Still, he couldn't help but enjoy the attention. He liked feeling important, being the center of the tavern with everyone listening to him. And when Cormac asked if he could record his stories, Declan agreed. At first, Declan was happy with the arrangement. Cormac would pay for his drinks and food, and Declan would tell his stories. But then, something strange happened. Cormac started acting differently. He began to forget appointments and to show up to tavern meetings already drunk. He started to act out, insulting the other patrons and picking fights with the barkeep. Declan was embarrassed, but he kept drinking and telling stories, hoping Cormac would eventually snap out of it. Now, the villagers noticed these changes in Cormac, and they started to avoid the tavern. They'd whisper in hushed tones about the strange goings-on inside and shake their heads at the sight of Cormac stumbling down the road. All the while, Declan was none the wiser, still happily trading his stories for drinks. But one day, something terrible happened. Finn, Declan's faithful dog, disappeared. One minute he was there sitting patiently at the tavern, and the next he was gone without a trace. Declan was heartbroken. He searched everywhere for his dog, but it was no use. Finn was gone, and as the days went by, Declan grew more and more desperate. He started spending all of his money on food for Finn, and he hardly drank at all. He walked the streets, asking anyone he met if they'd seen his dog, but no one had. And that's when Declan decided to visit Granny Maire. She was an old woman who lived at the edge of the village. People said she had special powers and was very wise, so Declan thought she might be able to help him. When Granny Maire heard about Finn, she told Declan that the only way to bring him back was to find the person who took him and ask them nicely to return him. But Declan was furious. He didn't want to ask anyone. He wanted revenge. He wanted to find the person who took his dog and make them suffer the way he was suffering. Granny Maire saw the anger in Declan's eyes and shook her head. She knew that Declan was a good man at heart. But she also knew that his friendship with Cormac had brought nothing but pain and misery to him and his dog. So she did something drastic. She put a sleeping potion in a bottle of wine and brought it back to the tavern. When Declan saw the bottle, he smiled. He thought it was a gift from Granny Maire, a special remedy to help him stop crying. He poured the wine into a glass and drank it down. Then he laid his head on the table and fell fast asleep. When he woke up, Declan was in his bed. It was a strange feeling. He hadn't slept in his own bed in weeks. He sat up and rubbed his eyes, and that's when he saw it. There was a small note on his pillow that read, "Take this bottle to Cormac. He needs it more than you." Confused, Declan got out of bed and went to the tavern. When he got there, he saw Cormac sitting alone at a table. The tavern was empty. No one was there to serve them or listen to their stories anymore. Declan approached the table and handed Cormac the bottle. "What's this?" Cormac asked. "A gift from an old friend," Declan replied. "She says you need it more than I do." Cormac looked at the bottle and then at Declan. "Why are you here? Shouldn't you be out looking for your dog?" "Well, I am," Declan said. "But I thought I should check on you first. You haven't been yourself lately, and I thought maybe this would help." Now, Cormac wasn't going to take the bottle, but then he saw the pleading look on Declan's face, and he couldn't refuse. He took the bottle and drank it down. Then he laid his head on the table and fell asleep. When Declan saw this, he knew that he'd made a mistake. He'd given Cormac sleeping draughts instead of wine, but it was too late. Cormac was asleep, and the only thing Declan could do was wait. As the hours passed, Declan started to feel a sense of dread wash over him. He knew that something bad had happened, but he didn't know what. Then Cormac woke up, and when he did, he wasn't the same. He looked around the room wildly, his eyes filled with fear and confusion. "Where am I?" he whispered. "Who are you?" "I'm sorry," Declan said quietly. "I gave you the wrong bottle. I didn't mean to hurt you." But Cormac didn't seem to hear him. He was staring at the floor, his body shaking. "I don't understand," he mumbled. "Why am I here?" Then he looked up at Declan and screamed, "What have you done to me?" Cormac lunged for Declan, but he dodged out of the way. "I just gave you a sleeping draught," he said. "It was an accident." But Cormac didn't believe him. He thought that Declan had put something in his drink to control him, to make him do his bidding. "You did this to me," Cormac shouted, his eyes blazing with fury. "I'll make you pay." And with that, he charged at Declan again. Declan didn't want to hurt Cormac, but he had no choice. He pushed Cormac away from him, and the two men grappled on the floor. It was a strange fight, not angry or violent, but filled with sadness and despair. Finally, Cormac fell silent. He lay on the floor, defeated, his body shaking. "What?" he whispered. "Why did you do this?" "I'm sorry," Declan said. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted to help." After that, Cormac left the village and was never seen again. As for Declan, he was never the same. He stopped going to the tavern and he grew distant and quiet. The villagers whispered about him, wondering what had happened to the man who used to bring so much laughter and joy to their town. But no one knew the answer. They just saw a sad, lonely man walking the streets and avoided him. So remember, no matter how good your intentions may be, always think before you act. Even the smallest of choices can have far-reaching consequences.